Well, Ty, thank you so much for joining me right now for this conversation for the NFT NYC community. And thanks for being a part of our event coming up June 20th through the 23rd in Times Square, New York. Can you please introduce yourself to folks that may not know who you are and a bit about your background? And then we'll jump in and talk about things like music NFTs and photography and the things that you're passionate about. And I actually share quite a bit of passion about those two industries and the NFT connection as well. So please let folks know a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Ian. I'm really glad to be here and talk to you today. Um, I am the CEO of FanTracks. FanTracks is a uh, live concert streaming company. We focus on jazz and rock, and we have a forthcoming NFT program. So I want to talk a little bit about like what's happening with, I'll call it concerts and NFTs and digital merchandise. My background briefly is before FanTracks, I was the Chief Technology Officer for Universal Music Group. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a bunch of different companies, mostly focused in metadata and music and a little bit in video games. And the only other fact people should know is I was David Bowie's computer guy. I basically worked with David Bowie on software that he used to generate lyrics for his albums and on some what I would call Web 3 albums, but back in the Web 1 timeframe, he wanted to build generative music albums. So I've had a lot of experience working with artists like him, and I'm really excited about what they're going to be able to do in the future with this technology.
And besides being the CTO, and not just but the first CTO that Universal Music Group had, and many great accomplishments as an entrepreneur. I don't know if you mentioned you're at Gracenote for almost 20 years. I think everybody was impacted by that as a consumer. It was part of the whole revolution that happened was Gracenote's approach in digital music. And so you have this incredible number of relationships and already pre-established strategic partnerships. And so now you're introducing people to these new concepts of, hey, Web3 for musicians, for photographers, maybe certain kind of specialty. Let's maybe start and talk about immersive experiences. What type of immersive experiences are you looking to execute on now? And what are you and those that you're working with looking forward to as you think about what Web3 and the metaverse can provide in terms of a completely different approach for musicians and their fans?
Well, let's start with what the state of music is, which is today most people get music through a music streaming application like Spotify or Apple Music. And yes, Gracenote had a lot to do with creating the experience that's there, which really is just like sound. And if you're lucky, you have a picture of the artist, and you may have an album cover, and you might have the lyrics. That's all music is today. But musicians are far more diverse than those small number of assets. You know, their musical works are a reflection of the time and the place that they live. These are real people. They do things, and they have cares, and they have ideas, and they have dreams. And so the question is, how do you visualize some of those for people? How can you bring them into their world? And unfortunately, the very narrow definition of what a music service is today doesn't allow you to have an interactive, immersive album. In the Wayback Machine, before, kind of right at the beginning of the internet, there was a format that was called CD-ROM, and in that format, people were able to make interactive, like a game you have today. You could go into Peter Gabriel's secret world, and you could interact with him. You could play with his different kinds of visual experiences that he had. And I worked on the creation of those projects with people, like I mentioned, like with David Bowie and others. And so I have seen the future through the past, which is that artists are multimedia beings, and they can create something that's immersive and interactive. And so, okay, here we are now with Web3. Okay, what this means is there's a standardized platform that allows them to create a experience around their music where you can really like go into their world. And that could really mean go into their world like virtually, or that could mean you're just going to be able to experiment and mix their audio, and it's a more 2D experience. But the reality is you're going to be able to take a step inside the music. And this is really what's needed, because basically music has fallen a little bit behind in the evolution of the internet, because we've been kind of trapped in this traditional streaming model for a while. Um, it hasn't moved that far past the CD, frankly, some would even say it's gone a little bit backwards. So I do think the visual assets that are associated with music is really going to be a big area where we can evolve.
How do you see different creators coming together with these new opportunities? So, music obviously is a huge part of your focus and has been and will remain that way. But photographers is a new, intriguing strategies that you have in mind. And so, you think about photographers coming together with musicians, especially in light of the Web3 and the metaverse medium. There's a visual that is kind of nice to be able to connect with audio, but they can be done separately. So how do you see these types of creators, the photographers and musicians and bands, doing NFT projects on their own and collaborating together? And how do you hope to foster some of that at your company?
So, photographers in general have been left out of the digital era because there wasn't a way. I mean, obviously, people go to you go to a live show, you see like a row of photographers shooting all the pictures for the show. They're in the pit before the show gets going. And what happens to those photos? Well, only a few of them ever really make it to periodicals or magazines or websites, and most of them go onto a hard drive. And some artists, some photographers collect their best photos and they exhibit within a fine art gallery. So actually, if you think about it, in the NFT space with artwork today, fine artists have figured out that they can sell digital artwork. I mean, people are even selling, uh, artwork from the 16th century as NFTs. And so the reality is, fine art has made this transition and is doing pretty well with it. And then but photographers are still stuck in the gallery. And so they have an opportunity now to bring collectible photographs and unique photographs for the actual events. And these would be something that probably they would shoot live at a live concert. And then there might be 25 collector photographs from that concert, which people would be able to obtain as NFTs in different forms. And so we're really excited about being able to bring them into this universe and getting the fans of music directly access to photographs, not just a generic photograph of the artist. It's the photograph of the artist on the stage of the show that they just saw. So it's directly connected to something that they experienced, and it's a memory for them for how great that was, because the visual can live on forever. And while you might remember a little bit about the music from the show you saw, the photograph, is a real timestamp for people, and they can see the art and they're dressed in a certain way, and so I think that's a really great idea. The other area that I think is important to understand is that fans have cameras, and while some artists are kind of making them put the cameras in the bag when they go to the show, others are really uh, uh, embracing this fan created photography. And so that's another area where you could actually have the fans submitting photographs from the show, and then this could be curated and be part of the experience as well. So I do think actually everybody's a creator these days. There's an opportunity to have both the professionals and the amateurs contribute. And so we're really excited about that. We're thinking that this is going to become a big deal, and feedback from photographers is very positive. They are very, very interested to reach the consumers, and I think you'll see a lot of new applications for that in the future.
What do you think fans desire? What kind of groundswell is there amongst the existing fan base of these A-list musicians that they already have an appetite for, as these different things are, being put together and being brought to market?
Well, really, this is if you kind of back up from what is photography, people want a personalized memorabilia from the show or the event that they attend. They want to get closer to their artist in some way. So really, merchandising at shows is frankly a fairly ancient experience. Basically, you've got like a table with some guy with a box or a gal, it's kind of not that happy, trying to sell you some shirts very quickly with some stuff on the wall. It's not really advantageous versus a digital merchandise booth might have TV screens on the walls with QR codes with all of the stuff being shown, and you can like just grab the QR code and you can get it now or later. You don't even have to wait in line. You can just do it all on your phone. And that could be then also ordering you something that's personalized, so that then later, a week later in the mail comes an on-demand version of your image with like your, personalized for you in the mail. And that could come as a shirt, it could come as a poster, all kinds of different things. And so that is a big step up that needs to occur. So the fans can have something that's more memorable. And also, we want to encourage collecting of music and people building collections of things. And it's that's one of the really great things about people is when you go to their house, they say, "Hey, look, here's the poster from the Grateful Dead show or whatever I was at." And so, how do we do that in the digital age? And I'm excited. I think that the invention of the NFT and of the crypto marketplace is going to really enable this. Where it just wasn't possible before to just do it with just straight JPEGs. You really had to have that provenance and ownership information to know that it was actually a collectible versus just a copy.
Well, there's going to be a lot of things that catch people by surprise in this industry. I often think that we're like in the second or third trimester, not yet born. Um, One thing that I would be interested in your thoughts is established A-list celebrity creators compared to those that are going to become known through this medium alone. They don't really have an established base. And so when you look at how these machines, right? These branding machines, these huge musicians and bands been around for a long time, or photographers with phenomenal bodies of work and established name, and they just were waiting for this opportunity compared to those that are kind of emerging. How do you see these different folks looking at this, and how would you guide maybe the next great creator compared to how you might guide a super established band?
So in fact, I just gave a little talk on this, and what I would say is the following: it's all about collaboration. So if you're an emerging artist and you have your own music and your own music ideas, but you need to visualize those ideas or connect into this ecosystem we're talking about, there are emerging digital visual artists of different types. There's ones that are making artwork, there's ones that are making games, there's digital interactive producers. So, and these people, they themselves may not yet be famous, or not, it may not be that big of a deal. So, what I would suggest is that they seek those people out and collaborate. In the old school world, this would have been your music video producer guy. Like, you may have not had the film chops and the cameras, and the guys would help you make a cool video and put skateboards in it and jump off the roof of cars or whatever you're going to do. So you found that person, and then you were able to visualize your music and get yourself out there. And a lot of people collaborated that way. And in fact, a lot of the original videos on MTV were really made by like non-professionals. In fact, some of the more interesting ones were made by just creative people who had a little bit of camera chops but better ideas, and then that combined with the music artist created something really exciting. So that's why I actually like this event. When I went to your event, there were creators of all kinds, and I saw that the community and the collaboration between the music people and the visual people, like, where else is that happening? And I think that's fantastic. And then I think there's one other type, which is some people are really investing in games, and so that's another thing. You could have a musician, you could find somebody who's got kind of a cool idea for a game. They need music for their game. You work on the music for their game, and that becomes the offering that you have. And so there's a lot of, and there'll be more of these kind of things. There's a lot of different collaborations that one could do. Find cool people to work with. That's my 2 cents.
Well, there's certainly a lot of people that are in the cool to work with camp at NFT.NYC. We had a large group. Thanks for joining us in November and being a part of that. We expect even more people based on the number of tickets sold and things of that nature for this year. And I think that collaboration is what we've fostered at NFT.NYC since the very beginning. Right? We just had a couple hundred people. It was people that were coming from around the globe that were working on this new technology, developing smart contracts, and we're looking for people to collaborate with. How can people best collaborate with FanTracks? If folks see you, they hear you speak, or they, run into somebody on your team, or they meet up with somebody that you're working with, like, what's a great approach for someone that's interested in what you have to offer at FanTracks if they are a potential prospect? Like, how might they investigate and engage and reach out?
So first of all, they'll probably see me or one of my team members at the show, and we are doing a couple of different things. One is we're building a connected clubs network right now. So, like, yes, we are doing shows with A-list artists, and if you're an A-list artist and wandering around, NFT.NYC, please come up to me. I actually, I saw some there last year, so they do come. But the reality is, we actually are more interested in emerging artists for these clubs, and especially people that are in the field of jazz music, because we've recently acquired uh, a jazz platform, and so we're going to be focusing on that. That market really needs emerging talent and young people in it, and and then the second thing is if they want to be connected, let's say they're in the art world and they're artists, or they're people that are into video, or they're people into video games, we'd like to know, because basically I when I meet artists, they want to do this stuff. They don't know who to collaborate with. And most major artists are trying to understand this. It's very new, quite confusing, frankly, to a lot of them. They're not sure what to do. And, they don't want to they want to do something original and new. So they need a collaborator. And, right now I'm doing a project with Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel's actively looking for collaborators, and people like that. So, it's that's what's going to be happening. And the reality is that uh, just come up and introduce yourself to me, and if I can find a way to integrate you into the conversation, I will.
Well, we are thankful for your involvement. We celebrate all the success that you've had, and we anticipate you'll continue to achieve great things. We also celebrate you. Today's a day of celebration for you. It's your birthday. And so it's very kind of you to jump on and take a moment out of your birthday to share with the NFT.NYC community. We look forward to hearing you speak at our event. And so thanks for what you're doing as a leader, and for setting the tone, and kind of carving out ways that these things can be done really well. For anybody that's interested in FanTracks in the NFT world, I believe you can email nft@fantracks.com would be a good way to get in touch with these folks. If you are watching us or see the archive of this conversation, thank you for your attention. We look forward to seeing you in New York City, June 20th through the 23rd. Ty, again, we're grateful for your involvement, and I am thankful that you jumped on and had this conversation with me today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hannah. I super look forward to it.